Welcome to Icons of Inspiration, where we bring you stories of individuals who've made a significant impact in their industries and communities. I'm your host, Bryan Morales. I am thrilled to introduce a true trailblazer in the real estate industry world. Our guest today is Leo Pareja, the newly appointed CEO of eXp Realty, one of the most innovative and rapidly growing real estate companies in the world. Leo's journey in the real estate industry spans over 2 decades, during which he has co-founded successful companies like Remine and Washington Capital Partners. His leadership and vision have not only transformed eXp Realty, but have also left an indelible mark on the entire industry. Leo has also been a driving force in the National Association of Real Estate Professionals, serving as a founding president of the Metro DC chapter and later as a national president. His commitment to empowering the Hispanic community and fostering diversity in real estate is truly commendable. Beyond his professional achievements, Leo is a dedicated philanthropist, co-founding the Pareja Family Foundation, which focuses on providing educational opportunities for women and disadvantaged communities. It is my honor to welcome Leo Pareja to Icons of Inspiration. Leo, thank you very much for being with us today. I'm excited to have you. I have a couple of questions to get the ball rolling and get to know you a little bit better and share with our audience. Can you share your journey in the real estate industry and what led you to become the CEO of eXp Realty?
All right, Brian. Good afternoon, and I'm happy to be here. I'll give you the abbreviated version. So I joke that I'm born and raised into real estate because not because I come from a family business, but just because I got into it at 19 years old. The short version is I went to school to study graphic design and web design and kind of go into the tech, which I eventually did. So it's ironic, but in college, the tech bubble blew up. I fell in love with real estate after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Did my first transaction for my personal transaction when I needed a new place. Ended up doing an FHA non-occupant co-borrower loan. My father co-signed me and gave me the money for the down payment. I paid him back with my commission at 3%, rented out 3 rooms to fraternity brothers, and then used that one single small example to go on and sell 11 homes that summer. And then that turned into, by my senior year of college as a full-time student, to $306,000 in GCI. I thought I was very special. I realized I had a real estate license during the greatest run-up in the history of the world. The market collapsed. I lost everything, lots of boogers and crying, and rebuilt myself through the financial crisis, got really good at REO, institutional customers. And by 2010, I was ranked the #1 Keller Williams agent in the world by transaction count. So sold about 4,000 homes in my transactional career, then started a hard money lending business, which led me to start a software company called Remine, which about 80% of the agents in the US touch through their MLS subscriptions. And then after exiting both my last 2 businesses, I got a cold call from someone named Glenn Sanford asking if I wanted to become our chief technology officer. I actually politely said no. We ended up spending some time together and realizing we had very similar paths and stories. And he asked me to join as the president of our affiliate companies. 6 months later, I became the chief strategy officer. And then less than a year and a half later, I'm now the CEO of the company. So that's a small version because we have limited time and I want to be able to answer as many questions as possible for you guys.
No, of course. And I thank you. I thank you so much.
The important takeaway is I'm one of you. I'm still licensed. I think I'm the only CEO of a publicly traded real estate company who actually sold homes, let alone still hold a license. And I think that's meaningful and important. And I think the vast majority of our leadership team actually sold homes. So, Michael Valdez was a very productive agent. Wendy Forsythe was a broker owner and ran other real estate companies and still, like the 3 of us, still hold active licenses. Glenn Sanford is obviously an agent team leader. And I think that makes a difference, right? Because our job is to support agents in building whatever size dream they want. And I describe eXp as that. We're a platform that allows agents to build whatever size dream they want. I think that's important because, bigger is not always better. If you want to do rev share, you can, but 86% of the agents don't because they're here to sell homes. And then, you don't have to be a mega team. You can be a solo producer who has a fantastic business that provides an income for you and your family and whatever your dreams are. And I always like to remind mega teams that, solo agents are the most profitable ones that I know. And again, there's no right or wrong here. It's, what works for your dreams and goals, and can we provide you the technology and systems and backend to allow you to do it as frictionless as possible, right? I think
Absolutely.
the game in capitalism is to create an experience with the least amount of friction, and
Awesome.
and that's what I'm obsessed with.
Great. Now, one thing that you mentioned all your experiences. Now, so far, you have an innovate. You have a reputation of being an innovative leader. Can you talk about some of the key innovation strategies that you have implemented already in eXp Realty in your time here?
Yes. So when I got here, the very first thing I got obsessed with, and it has not changed, which is operational excellence. It's the not sexy stuff that we focused on first, which is, how do I pay you faster? Like real time payments, right? Like if I get a HUD one, can I make the money appear in your bank account that day? Like that to me is the holy grail. Can I onboard you smoother? Meaning, can I get it down from 48 questions and 64 emails to like 7 questions? And 12 emails? Can we make your license transfer smoother? Can we have a 1-800 number 24/7, 7 days a week that we can answer first level questions without transferring you or saying we'll call you back, right? Do we have a method to get broker questions escalated from the difference? Be like, hey, what addendum do I need versus I'm at the closing table, I need a credit signed off on, right? So it's goes back to like having walked a mile in your shoes and making sure that beyond everything, the process is as smooth and as painless as possible to support your growth. And then there's the what will be, cooler and sexier and more technology bent, like Luna, our AI bot we released last year. We're about to do a massive update to it with like 28 different expert personas. When we created Revenos, the corporate lead gen engine, that last year assigned 14,000 referrals that translating to 3,100 closings for $1.1 billion in volume.
Wow.
eXp exclusives that launched in December and now has over 15,000 users with probably more unique listings than any other company in the country. And from what I've seen online, we actually have more than the ones who've been doing it for 10 years. So it's, I focus on a couple things, right? Is we're the platform of choice for real estate entrepreneurs that want to build a business, whatever that looks like for you. And two, what unique assets can we create based on size and scale? So I'm hyper aware that people join people, right?
Of course. Yeah.
You can go onto a website and copy paste the value proposition and say, hey, look at me, I'm the new eXp. But the reality is you can't replicate size and scale, right? So we've gone through all of our growing pains in 10, 15 years of, this didn't work and we adjusted and we built a sustainable model. And then, we've now attracted some of the smartest entrepreneurs on the planet. And like a testament to that from a transaction point, even though I just said, you build whatever size dream you want, but our top 250 teams together sold north of 69,000 homes. That's me, and that at a disproportionate rate, the smartest, most productive agents in the country pick this company because our platform allows you to grow as big as you want. And that could be regionally, that could be multi-market, that could be niche specific. But people join people, and that I think speaks to the agents in the field, the most innovative kind of thought leaders, whether that's teams, individuals, attractors. And I think it goes to the leadership, right? I think we have a very robust leadership bench of seasoned, tested practitioners.
Absolutely. I will say, as an agent being in the front lines, I can definitely say the speed that things move in the XP, the availability of everybody, the access to all the systems that we have, and the access to everybody above us. It really makes an impact in that, in our business and our everyday. It makes it easier to be able to focus on what's important, and that's our clients. I would
I
take
would, I would say I spend half my days doing this, which surprises people, and I actually say it proudly because I think this is the job, this is the role. I just hung up with 3 brokers in Texas, team leader, broker licensees, not state brokers, who were giving me feedback on recognition in a certain way. And me and Wendy, our CMO, and I pulled in Sumant, our CTO. We're saying, hey, by the way, we're building some of this. Let me show you where we're built. And they're like, oh my God, this is exactly what we needed. But hey, it's also missing this, right? And from being a practitioner, we actually immediately said, I agree with you, right? Versus like, I don't need to schedule a meeting about a committee to get a vote. It's like, no, I can in my gut say, I own a franchise, I own an independent. Yeah, that makes total sense. Or hey, in our model, I know how that makes sense, but this is why I can't do it. And I think as a human being, closing that loop when you have an idea or suggestion that either, validates or invalidates it, but you can still say, hey, I get why you're saying that, but this is why we can't do it, is almost as important for you in the field to understand that you were legitimately heard and considered. And when we said no, you actually understand why. You could disagree, but you at least understand where we're coming from.
Absolutely. Now, before you joining eXp, you co-founded Remine, as you mentioned, and Washington Capital Partners. How did those experiences shape your approach to leadership and strategy in the real estate industry?
So those two were my bigger business experiences compared to running a very large team, because my team peaked at probably like 30 people. And again, that's another topic we can talk about if there's enough time. Like I've kind of talked about the rise of the super team that I've witnessed in 2 decades. But Remine peaked or WCP went to like 50, 60 employees while I was there. And then Remine peaked at like 300 employees. So there were very large lessons in leadership, and because what works at one certain size doesn't work in the other. And I do spend a lot of time learning and reading about leadership. And, there's breaking points in leadership at like 150 humans. And this is well documented. There's a good book on it called Tribes that, whether it's a team, a company, a country, like there's certain things that happen at scale. And for me, from a leadership standpoint, those were moments of massive growth because I had to learn new languages, and not from like English to Spanish, but more like private equity and like, hey, adjusted EBITDA. And it was those two experiences in raising substantial amounts of either equity, debt, or returnable funds in a Series D regulated fund where I was a great real estate agent and a great team leader, but when I kind of stepped into those experiences, I had to learn a whole nother language that is the only reason why I'm able to do this role, right? Like I do walk a mile in your shoes and I speak this language, but I also understand adjusted EBITDA and COGS and net income and free cash flow in order to be able to have a sustainable publicly traded company.
Absolutely. Thank you. Now, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you is because I too am part of NAHREP here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm the government affairs director. And I saw that you used to be the former president at a national level and also the founder of the DC chapter. What accomplishments are you most proud of in your time with NAHREP?
So NAHREP is an extremely important part of my journey. I actually just did a almost hour-long podcast with Gary that's going to come out soon, where we're really kind of dive deep into my NAHREP journey because it was a really important part of my life. But NAHREP is probably the best example I have of saying yes when uncomfortable. So I said yes to founding the chapter in my 20s. And during the financial crisis, there were many times where Gary got a last minute invitation to something in DC that he just physically couldn't get to fast enough because of time differences in California. And I sat in the room completely underqualified in the White House, in the comptroller of the currency, in Congress, while they were debating CFPB and Dodd-Frank and like the cash window of Treasury and how mortgages are going to be bought and sold. So it put me in rooms where I had to grow. And Gary talks about it in the conversation we had where it's, that was part of the goal, is to create these platforms and opportunities for folks to level up. And he joked maybe he didn't put everyone in situations as the ones he put me in, but it was and is an important part of my journey because it created these opportunities for me that I would not have had otherwise. And even in growing and scaling Remine, when I went into multiple markets, my many years of active engagement with the organization gave me this kinship and community to, didn't matter what market in the country I went to, I was able to pick up the phone and call a Brian who's local in Charlotte and say, hey, who do you know at the board? Who do you know at the MLS? And when you made that phone call on my behalf and say, hey, this is someone I know and trust for many years, and they're a legitimate practitioner, can you even just take his phone call? It's the difference of a cold introduction versus a warm introduction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what advice would you give to any current and aspiring members of NAHREP, particularly those looking to make a significant impact in their communities and the real estate industry?
I think that answer goes to just about any part of life, not just NAHREP. It's like it goes to how do you impact your family? How do you impact your personal goals? Um, I've achieved some really cool kind of external milestones that I focused on. And the aha I had is nothing actually changed. Like 30 to 30 was something I was obsessed with. Number one was something I was obsessed with. Uh, and the actual event is empty and meaningless. You don't actually feel different, which is a crazy aha. Uh, because like I think the joy and the accomplishment and everything is the journey itself. Um, and so I would always remind people, what are you ultimately doing it for? Is it actual ego versus net income or lifestyle, right? Like the amount of people I hear people say, I'm doing this for my family, but miss every important milestone and event. I, you know, I, I truly want to pass away to whatever's next with a smile on my face that I did not miss the important stuff for my kids and my wife and was present. And um, that's my big aha in my journey, right? Like, and I'm super grateful of just like the luck that I've experienced a lot of stuff pre-kid, and I'm not having this experience because my kids don't talk to me. Like mine are 7 and 9, and I'm super, super involved. I would venture to surprise people that I probably show up to more kids for my kids' school than the people who have a quote unquote kind of normal life. With as much travel and demands there are on my schedule, I focus on planning my life around my priorities, which are my wife and kids.
I would say that for many of us, it does take some time to reach that aha moment. It's after maybe you've had a lot of downfalls, or even once you finally reach that top or what you thought was the top, and inside you feel the same. It's like, well, okay, maybe this isn't exactly what I wanted or how I wanted it to feel. So I definitely understand that, and I appreciate that. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the Pareja Family Foundation and the impact that you hope to achieve through that initiative?
Yeah, so my wife and I actually really kind of decided we were each other's other person when we met in our early 20s because we were on a date and we both had applied for Big Brothers Big Sisters and had both been rejected. And I got rejected at like 21 or 22 because of my driving record. Same with her. It's important to make sure you're safe with other people's kids in the car. But we both realized early, and one of the things that I learned from the financial crisis was like tomorrow never comes, right? Like so, when I started my journey early on, I said, okay, when I have more money, I'm going to give back. And so we both then ended up with little brothers and little sisters, and we poured into them, and we're both still in touch with them. But losing everything, so I've had that aha both in my peaks and my valleys, right? So I just shared that I had that aha in my peak of like nothing changed and I don't feel different. But in my low points, I learned it's like, well, if I want to create impact, I can do it without money. And so like you can take one person and pour into them, and it could be a child, it could be a relative, it could be a mentee in business. And I personally, in my journey, have felt that creating singular impact, I think a lot of us find a check the box type of giving back um, as a pacifier, whether it's doing something once a year with an organization you're a part of, or writing a check for $20 a month just to say that you did it. And versus, in my opinion, with requires zero money, pick a human being that you can pour into and materially affect the course of their life. Doesn't cost you any money, and in most times that much time. Right. If you were to take 1 hour a week or a month or some in free, like it doesn't have to be every day, right? Um, you could significantly change the course of someone's life. And More interestingly than any of the awards I've ever gotten is those conversations that feel really meaningful. Like, hey, that person changed the course of my life because they taught me how to fish and feed my family. And I literally feed my family with what this person taught me. And I got that experience out of being a team leader. Right. So when COVID happened and there was a lot of strong emotions in the world of, how do you affect change? Ariana and I, my wife, started a foundation, and the program we started with was taking women and people of color who haven't had access to like formal education at the collegiate level, and put them through a boot camp and taught them how to do entry level tech roles. And we have many examples where we take someone making 30 or 40K and get them up to 80, all the way to like 120,
Wow.
2 to 3x their household income. And most recently, we started a program with Miami-Dade College where we're teaching super, in my opinion, basic financial education that isn't taught anywhere else. And we give it away through the university, and we have the vision of giving it away at every high school level. But just how to build solid financial systems that really speak to how you should invest, how you should pay yourself first, how to maximize benefits at a job, stuff like that.
Awesome. Awesome. That's amazing. Um, I would say that here in North Carolina, last year I lost we lost a great friend. His name is John Padone. He was here from Charlotte, and he was one of the first people that, when I joined eXp, was available. He talked to me about the company itself, but then also helped me grow my business. And as you know, many people, when they come into real estate, it's the very first time that they will reach a certain income threshold that they didn't before. And it was for me. And I was super grateful for him. And unfortunately, he did pass away last year. And but it is true. It's somebody that I will always remember, mainly because of the time that he put and the time that he took to teach me and to guide me. Um, Now, would you say, I know you talked a lot about your family, your foundation, and your story, but what would you say is the main thing that drives you personally and professionally? Anybody that you can think of, that's inspired you along the way, that you could speak about?
Um, Absolutely. My father. He's always both my parents, but my father specifically. He's always been my role model, and it's interesting to me because it's never. I don't ever pick like a third party I don't have a relationship with. Then I had another mentor who just recently passed away as well, who always poured into me, right? And a lot of relationships start somewhat transactionally in business or something, but then you kind of just connect with someone, and the same goes uh, for myself in the people I've poured into, right? And who you connect with is, I think, an organic, normal process that um, you don't really control. It's like who you connect with, um, and you just kind of create a kinship and who you pour into and how you pour into them. Um, but my aha in that sense has been you'd be surprised who reaches back out, right? Like, so I reach out to people who I probably, especially in my whole journey, where like they were very successful or very ahead of me of where my goals were. And I think where I've seen the connection both in my mentors and then in my mentees is where people remind you of yourself, right? And like in any capacity, like young, hungry, go-getter, um, or some. I think that that's human beings. That's how we kind of pick a tribe, in the sense of like something about your journey I connect with, and I think it happens very organically. And then the more I've given in life, the more it seems to come always back to me. So I always focus on that. Um, and I have found giving is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. So
Okay.
I do it because I enjoy it, and life seems to always reward it.
That's amazing. So I have one last question before you go. As a fellow board member and real estate agent at eXp Realty, I'm interested in your perspective on how organizations like NAHREP and companies like eXp can collaborate to support agents and communities. What are your thoughts on this? Is there a way that we can connect eXp more with NAHREP and our mission and initiatives?
That's a great question, and I mean, Gary and I've talked about it. Again, I think people choose the tribes and communities they're associated to, and whether and this industry is very big, so I feel like there's multiple ways to win, and like if you take NAHREP or eXp from a membership standpoint, we're small percentages of the total ecosystem. But I think, you really connect to the people you connect with, whether it's shared background, shared history, shared emotion, business model, alignment of views. There's a lot of different things that create community. But when you end up having two or three of them, I think that kinship is stronger. And it could be, brand you're associated to, um, you know, a connection, a cultural connection like the one we share through NAHREP.
Absolutely. Well, Leo, thank you again so much for being with us today. This was great and awesome. I look forward to continue working with you in eXp and hope to see you in one of the events coming soon. So thanks again for being with us. You have a great day.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you.